Welcome back. Rock Stories with the Brumster, Tales from the Fans. It's your favorite concert memories, your favorite tales, your favorite memories of your favorite music. We've got fans that even are remembering the first time they heard an album as they opened it up and put it on the turntable and brought that needle down and, oh my God, did that sound really come out of that piece of petroleum product? Yes, it did. Yeah. And by the way, some of the coolest ways to listen to all of this music is through good old-fashioned vinyl. So explore that as well as rock fans. If you want to get back in the time machine and have that feeling, that's ultimately what we're doing, right? We're getting into a time machine to try to have that feeling again. What was that feeling that we got the first time we heard XYZ? You know, the first time I heard Stairway and just sat there with my gaping mouth, just jaw on the floor, like, is this really happening? Stairway to Heaven is so badass, right? Or Bohemian Rhapsody comes on, and you know, you're like, whoa. Or you're in a stadium and you hear We Will Rock You. You hear the Queen theme, right? The Queen theme. I think of that. We Will Rock You. Queen, one of the, they call it anthem rock. Really coined by Queen, started all of that. Freddie Mercury, one of the greatest stars of all time. We're going to talk today, and by the way, the show's all about the fans' perspective, your tales, your stories, your memories. Get in the time machine with us. Recapture those feelings again that we once had through the theater of the mind, and really, what is it that matters to you in your life and your memories? And we want to have you share those on the show today. Sharing on the show a friend that I met out of Brewbaker's Brewing Company in Visalia, just going and having a nice cold beer and chatting with a couple of folks, and Sadie is her name. Sadie's on the program with us today. She started talking about her love of Queen. We Will Rock You. We Are the Champions, but there's so much more to the story, and of course your stories as well. Thanks for coming and sharing your memories with us. Sadie, welcome to Rock Stories with the Brumster.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, I'm Sadie, and I am not your average fan. I'm a little bit younger and old soul. I've always been called an old soul. So today is so ironic that it has been 33 years that Freddie Mercury has passed away. He was such an odd character, and Queen has been a big part of my life since about 2017, 2018. The first time I ever heard a Queen song was actually in high school, and it was Bohemian Rhapsody. And I was into other music at the time, and my first thought, forgive me, was, what is this garbage? and I fully take that back now. I was such a loser, forever disregarding that music. And of course I knew We Will Rock You. I knew We Are the Champions. And I did not put two and two together. And when I first got into Queen in 2018, I started listening to all the songs, and I realized, like, whoa, like, these guys sing a lot more than what I thought they did. And a lot of fans figure that out is when they listen to songs, they'll realize, like, oh, I've heard this before. And it's not even the mainstream stuff. Like, You Don't Fool Me was a later one on their, I think, Made in Heaven album. And I listened to that when I was just going through all their songs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard this one before. Like, I haven't heard this one in a very long time, and I like it. But as for the band, in general, I do love the band. I went to go see Queen in concert in 2023. It was November 13th, 2023. Me and my dad went to LA at the BMO Theater Stadium, actually, and we saw Queen. I saw him for the first time, and my dad was like, wow, like, the guy Brian May, the guitarist, he was like, well, that guy's badass. Like, he's an old guy and he's playing guitar. Um, and it was such a surreal experience for me because I'd been a Queen fan for a few years already, and just experiencing that and realizing that two of the guys are still there. Two of the OGs are still there and still kicking ass on stage, and such an awesome performer. Adam Lambert is literally, I swear I made eye contact with that guy. It was so cool.
What a talent, right? And
Yeah.
you mentioned Brian May, still up there shredding it. I mean, for real,
Oh,
it's
yes.
right.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. And he still got it. He still got it. And I fear every day that I will get the headline, of whatever will happen to both of those guys. I fear every day that I will I will be so sad. But hopefully it's not soon or anytime soon. But those guys are really good treasures. And I believe that Freddie had a special place in his heart for both of them. And their dynamic too. Their dynamic was so not what the movie portrayed the dynamics to be, because the movie portrayed Freddie to be some kind of like monster and like begged Brian back to get into the band, and that never happened. That actually never happened. If anybody got into arguments, it was probably Brian and Roger. Brian's is the perfectionist, and he's very smart, and he has a really good head on his shoulders, and Roger's a hothead. And you can kind of see that through watching interviews and everything else in between.
So Freddie was almost like the peacemaker, like
Exactly.
coming in between. So he was there at the scene of the chaos. He didn't have anything to do with the chaos.
Yes, yes, and not that he didn't not that he didn't complain or anything like that, because he wasn't perfect. Freddie was not perfect at all. He was far from it. But when it came to music, he kept that in a specific category, as he did his friends. He kept them in a category.
Yeah. And it sounds like Freddie Newton, everybody kind of knowing, his life is ending. It was important to him that Queen lived on for the other guys, or am I wrong?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He, at the end of his life, it was super hard because he was getting rotated every 12 hours because he was so fragile. And he eventually did let Brian finish his last song because, well, he didn't let Brian. Unfortunately, Mother Love was the last song that he ever made. And when you go back and listen to it, Brian steps in and finishes the last verse because he had passed away. And it honestly makes me tear up every time I listen to it, because I realize that his life had ended, and his like confidant was his side buddy finished that song. And Freddie did say in an interview that after I die, just don't make my life boring. And people have really kept up that for him. They never made him seem boring.
One of the greatest, if not the greatest showman. I was mentioning earlier that arena rock was not a thing. No one knew what the term arena rock meant until Freddie Mercury came out with Queen and showed everybody how it's done, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people like to bring up Live Aid for that to like manifest. Even people on the production were like, wow. I think Elton John was up either before or after them, and he's like, and he said in this words, like, you bastards, like, you stole the show, after they like came back from their set. But it was
respect.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, when Elton John tells you that, like, you stole the show, like, you definitely did something right.
That actually happened with John Lennon and him. John Lennon was like not really keen to get up on stage and do a number with Elton, and all of a sudden I think it was Elton listening in to a new potential album, a bunch of songs that John had made, and one of the ones that John was going to skip over and not put on was Watching the Wheels Go Round and Round. And Elton's like,
Mm.
that's a hit. You need to put that on there. And he's like, you put that on there, and if it hits, then you've got to come on stage and sing with me. So Elton won that bet. But what I'm saying is like, greatness knows greatness, basically, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And Freddie was great. And he always has been great. When he was, Freddie was shipped off to boarding school at St. Peter's, all boys boarding school, at a really young age. And he found his love for music there, poetry, art. He was an artist too. He did make paintings. I think he might have done one with Hendrix. I could be wrong, of Hendrix actually. But he did learn a lot of music there, and he did develop a love for the arts. And when he got back from school at the age of like 17 to 19, so he spent his most of his childhood at that boarding school. And when he came back, his parents lived in India, no, not India, Zanzibar for about a year before they went to England. And I think that was because of government issues, and his father was a government worker. So they fled to England for safety, and he started Elling College in England, Elling or Erling, I'm not sure. And it was there where he decided that he wanted to form a band, because that was the thing in the 60s, is forming a band and becoming famous and making money. And he was rich in confidence, and rich in, what is it called? He was very ambitious. He was rich in ambition. And this comes from his ex-lover, one of his first like serious boyfriends, writes this in his book. His name is David Mins, and that's where I'm getting some of my information from, actually. And he writes that he wanted to start a band, and not soon after he met Brian May and Roger Taylor. He met Roger first while working at like pop-up shops on like the antique market square. Like they had a little area. And so him and Roger worked together, and they had lost a bassist for their band. Their band was called Smile. And Tim Staffel, he's actually still here with us, and he's super good. And that's when Freddie joined their band, and that was the start of Queen.
Did they call it Queen yet at that time, or was it still Smile?
It was still Smile at the time, and I think they changed it to Queen for like, because Queen, like when you thought of Queen back then, it was like, oh, that's very naughty. That's very like out of character for bands.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
on top of it too, being British, the Queen,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
you're almost in a sense like, I could see there's so much nuance. It's like hearing a song, and it can basically mean something different for everybody that listens to it. So
Yes.
what a cool idea. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
thought provoking, right?
Yes, and honestly, Freddie did put a lot into the logo. Freddie drew the logo himself, and inside the logo there are symbols of all their zodiac signs. So that's why there are different, like, I think there's a crab because of like Cancer, and there's like a phoenix, right? I think there's a phoenix. I haven't looked at it in a while. But even the logo itself, Freddie created, and it was just so much thought and so precise.
he had to be very secretive at that time when nobody could admit to being gay, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up. And the main reason why I wanted to share my knowledge was because a lot of people think he was bisexual, and I'm here to prove that wrong. A lot of people might get mad at that, but I'm here to prove it wrong. Freddie was very complex, and the reason why he was got in trouble at his boarding school and left a year early was because he was caught with someone, another male, and he was sent home. So take that with what you will. And there's also a lot of people might argue, like, what about Mary Austin? And Mary Austin was a very important part of his life, and she's shown in the movie. But he was never faithful to Mary, as people want to praise Freddie for his love for her. He was never really faithful to anybody. Even before Mary, there was another woman called Rosemary, and she does have a book called, where is it at? I wrote it down. Like, it's called Life, Art, and Freddie Mercury. And she wrote that about her time with Freddie. And it was such a short period of time that they were together. But she had said that he could never really be intimate with her. And even when they were intimate, that he would always say, I wonder what it would be like to be held by a man. And that just gets you to think, like, well, why aren't you with a man, you know?
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And back then, this was something you did not let anybody know. This is something you kept on the down low. And
exactly.
so that must have been a heck of a struggle. Were his parents still in his life at that time? Were they still around? Did he have a relationship with his father at all at that time?
So, like I said, he was shipped off at 8 years old, and he didn't come back until he was like 17 or 19. So in that age, he surrounded himself with friend groups and really relied on friends rather than family members. I believe his sister might have been shipped out to a boarding school close to him, but I don't think they were in the same clique.
Right.
Um,
So you almost feel abandoned. Like why would I want to come reconnect to my parents? My dad basically shipped me off. You know?
Yes, exactly. And I don't think he held a form of hate or resentment towards his parents for that. I just think he kind of learned to adapt without them. And I think that's why he kept his friends closer than his parents. And like I said earlier, he kept people in categories. His family was in a category. His work, his like career life was in a category. His friends were in a different category. And he liked to keep those things separate, and he would never show other parts of himself. So say the party friends that he would hang out with, they would never intertwine with his bandmates. And if they did, it was because they were like groupies or something. Right. They never, And his parents would never ever hear about his doings. Like, they knew he was of another sexuality. They knew he was gay, but they never brought it up out of respect.
Right. Back then, it's like, Liberace's gay. Of course he is. We all know, but we just don't say it, right?
Oh yeah. And he never really admitted he was gay until about like 84. I think he like mentioned in like a German magazine about something about his sexuality, and something along the lines of like, "Oh, I'm gay, but you already knew that." Right. I think it was like a German fashion magazine in like 80 to 84.
Yeah, the sky is blue, right? Basically kind of statement. He's basically like saying it's obvious, like, hello.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and amazing the trajectory of Queen. So many hits so fast, kicked ass in the era of MTV. Some of the best videos ever. I mean, as a fan, What do you like looking back rear view mirror wise? What are your favorite, just like looking back, like if you get all nostalgic, is it going to YouTube or is it, trying to find some old
Oh,
MTV
so
videos or do you
I
have records or?
so I went on a mission in 2018 to get every studio album I could possibly find on vinyl. Um,
Nice.
a- and I succeeded. I have every studio album on vinyl. My next goal is to get live albums, so of like concerts, live tracks, whether that be the 45s, anything. Um, they're in my storage right now because I don't have a record player like I used to. So I would probably post up some vinyls and just play them. Um, but my first vinyl was probably the jazz album, and it might be an older copy because I don't even have the proper coverings for it. My mom found it because she used to work at a donation center. So she found it, and before sending it to the store, she held it for me, and I ended up taking it home, paying for it and taking it home. So I think the jazz album was my first album.
Isn't it a trip when you
hmm
when you when you hear your favorite music on vinyl and that needle drops and hits the
Yeah.
record and you hear the pops and crackles and it's like, oh my God, this is what it
And it's
sounded like for like, people.
ever,
Yeah, this doesn't exist anymore. You're hearing what you're not hearing a copy on an MP3 that you're streaming. No,
hmm
you're hearing it. That's how it sounded from the instruments to the needle, man. Like you're hearing how it really you're that much less removed from the original recording. You hear what I'm saying?
absolutely. And my goal is, and I think it's super rare, and they're like a few $100, is the Rainbow, Live at the Rainbow, I think. That's one of their recordings, and they're a lot of money. So I've been on the lookout when I go thrifting, but I'll be surprised if I ever get it.
Are you talking Rainbow Bar and Grill in SoCal?
No, I'm talking about, let's see if I can Live at the Rainbow
Which
74. Live at the Rainbow 74 on vinyl. It's a full concert, but on vinyl.
nice, nice, nice. Hey, I can't believe I met the biggest Queen fan ever. I'm so thankful. You lead a group of fans too. I mean, kind of like my Aunt Sue is in the Fans on the Run and goes around and sees Paul McCartney and has a whole group of other like-minded super fans. Are you like friends with, I mean, you had like an online thing too, right? I mean, you have a lot of
So
like-minded friends, right?
yeah, absolutely. I used to have an Instagram account, and it got a pretty good following. I had a store on eBay. But unfortunately, somebody had reported my content, and my store never really fled off like it was supposed to. But I do have one friend that I still keep in touch with, and she was very intertwined online with a few of Freddie's like close friends. And unfortunately, one of them has passed away. They're called the New York Daughters. And when Freddie did his whole spiel in New York in the early 80s, he met the New York Daughters, Thor and Lee Nolan, or Thor Arnold and Lee Nolan. And unfortunately, Thor is not with us anymore. But Lee is, and he's doing pretty good right now. And I hope nothing for the best for him. And they actually came out with the book too. So whoever's listening, go check that out. Thor and Lee Nolan, and Freddie in New York. It's called, I believe. And Don't Stop Us Now. That's what it's called. Yeah.
If you could hop in a time machine, literally, and go back,
Whew.
what would you tell Freddie if you got to meet him and go back in time?
If I were to go to a time period in his life, it would be like 71. 70 or 71, where the band's just starting. And I would want to see how they worked music and how they did things back then. And I would tell him that you are a legend, and you are a legacy, like you will leave a legacy. And just to do not change for anybody, and to keep going.
Right. And would you let him know that his friends did a good job at keeping him not boring?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I never knew
Yes.
that until you said that today. I didn't know that about him, that one of his last wishes was just keep my life not boring. Like, don't let people, like, keep me out there and exciting. Like they really have lived up to it. I think Queen is probably bigger post Wayne's World. Right? Like, that is the ultimate comeback, if you will, of Queen. After that, every Queen hit was across the board heard by everybody. It showed up out of nowhere. But prior to Wayne's World, you know, having Bohemian Rhapsody as a part of their soundtrack, like Wayne's World, isn't that crazy that God knows what he's doing, and he gave Freddie his wish, because it's like he's alive and well. Like, I don't even think of him as not here because of how Queen is still out there. And my God,
absolutely.
Adam Lambert, did you,
he's so good.
From American Idol to
even from the first audition that Adam Lambert gave. His first audition was Bohemian Rhapsody. His audition song was Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's so cool.
And he's such a powerhouse too. A lot of people don't like the concept of Adam, but they are all wrong. I'm sorry, but they are all wrong. I guarantee that Freddie would have been like, hell yeah, like this bitch is fire.
Oh, like, yeah, and not only that, he's also great at the theatrics and, you know, the running around. And Freddie knew how to grab that mic stand and just get the whole stadium going, right?
Oh yeah, and he would go against his doctor's orders all the time, Freddie, and like still belt out a ton of songs. And he did that all for his fans and all for everybody, just so everybody could be a part of his performance. He was truly something else.
I know that we weren't going to talk about this, but it just came in my head because I heard the other day, I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about HIV, AIDS, people dying.
Ooh, I'm so glad you brought this up.
AZT was actually killing people, wasn't it? Like, the medicine itself was killing people, wasn't it?
Okay, so Freddie was a big man whore. I'm just going to put that out there. He was, his personal assistant said that he was probably bringing home 3 different guys a week for a while. And they were different men. So that kind of gives you a rough estimate on how long, you know, how many different people he could have got it from.
Right.
And the first person to ever that was his partners to ever die of AIDS was Tony Baston, and he was with Freddie from 78 to 79, and he died by AIDS in 84.
Okay.
So he could have been a possible person to take it from. And he just had constant men all the time. So, you know, it could have been anybody, really. But Tony was the first person to tell him like, hey, I've got it. And so Thor and Lee, the guys that I mentioned earlier, they, you know, when they were in New York, Freddie was bringing home a few men. And so back then, Thor had told my friend, like, Thor and Lee, they had an interview with my friend, And they talked about, like, back then they didn't know where it was coming from. They just knew that people were getting sick and dying. They thought it was coming from this drug called poppers, and it was pain relief for the act of having intercourse with other men the way they do. So they thought it was coming from that. They didn't even know that it was through the act of having intercourse. So like back then, it was like they didn't even know.
It was just completely no one. This is flying blind. No one, and we're in a society where no one's admitting anything, so it's all under the radar. So nothing's
Yeah.
getting yes, and that's how quickly that spreads. You know, because of just, I mean, people know now differently, and so you know they can make plans and control themselves or what have you, or you know use medical care or whatever it is. We didn't, nobody knew and nobody wanted to admit anything. And back then also you have the approved drug to treat AIDS is AZT, which was banned, I heard. And I'm not an expert, so if I'm wrong, forgive me, but I heard that it was actually doing more damage than the disease itself or the virus itself.
Yeah.
The AZT was, it was connected somehow to Fauci or something back then even.
Yeah.
And that's not getting political. It just goes to show, I think there's a lot of money behind our FDA and our prescription drugs out there. And I mean, my God, all the opioids that killed everyone and, you know, the Sackler family and all that. And so there's no doubt that there's, you know, lots of problems, you know, corruption, in pharmaceuticals and to treat this disease that's popping up that no one understands, they start giving them cancer medication or something, I think, or was for cancer originally and then got banned. But AZT, I heard, was actually exacerbating, like is what actually killed a lot of these folks. And it's so sad that, forgive me, it's a rear view mirror and I'm not perfect, but to look back at these people who are just like coming to doctors for help and then knowing now that the medicine they were given was not good for them. It was bad for them.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. It just, it hurts my
No.
brain
Yeah,
to think
it's
of it.
sad. Yeah, no, it really is sad, and it's unfortunate that didn't have proper care. And a lot of the times, I think back then, if somebody like had said like I have, you know, AIDS, A, B, and C, you know, they weren't touched. They were looked like as if they were contaminated on the outside. Nobody understood those things. Like no, you know, they were just shoved aside and really not put first because of that fear, that unknowing fear. And I think it's sad that even like a few months after Freddie passed, I think there was a breakthrough in the research, and a lot of people like to say like, oh, like what if he just stayed alive until then? But he was too far gone at that point. His bones were already deteriorating. His body just was falling apart at that point.
David Bowie, he even recorded a video and a song like hours before his death. Like he was that into his art. Like that's what he was here to do, and he knew it. You know, you mentioned Brian finishing his last song.
Yes.
He really also had that same like thing as an artist, like to the very end. That's who he was, right?
Yeah. So Freddie recorded. They had a recording studio in Switzerland. I think it was Montreal. I'm not 100 where it was at, but they had a recording studio in Switzerland, and Freddie was just like, I'm tired, like I can't finish this, I'll come back, and he never did. So Brian ended up having to finish that last verse for him.
Wow. I could imagine Brian's emotion to do that, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's why. For sure, that's why they took that break after he passed away. And I think that it hit John Deacon the most, the bassist. because John Deacon joined Queen when he was 19, and Freddie was like his big brother. Um, they had a really close relationship. Him and John had a close relationship through all their lives and through all the years of Queen being Queen. Brian started a family, got married a few times. Roger started a family, got married a few times. So did John. But John was like a child when he joined. I think John only agreed because he was super drunk when he joined or when he agreed to join. But yeah, him and Freddie were really close, and I think John left because it was too hard for him to not be there for his friend without his friend.
You're a good musical historian. I think you should think about taking this up. I know that you've done this, today on Rock Stories with the Brumster podcast. Thank you for being here. You've done this today,
of course,
at ease because you, of course, are a huge fan. But I can also tell that you approached this in a really methodic, strategic way that I thought was excellent, that you could apply to any artist, musical historian, basically, in a sense. I think you did a great job. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Transporting us back in time. And that's what the whole point is these memories. And it's crazy. I'm 48, so I'm Generation X, yet I was born in the wrong era. My favorite music is my parents' music from the 70s.
Oh yeah.
And and that's how I fell in love and got into classic rock radio, as I found my stepdad's, Double Live Gonzo's Ted Nugent tape. And I'm like, what's this? Whoa, this is badass. I like this. And ooh, Peter Frampton. Ooh, Led Zeppelin. Ooh, Steve Miller. Ooh, Tom Petty. Of course, my parents were rockers, and they put in Tom Petty's Greatest Hits or Journey or whatever. Center Field by John Fogerty, whatever it was. Allman Brothers, I'm No Angel. Driving down the road, cranked as loud as you can imagine. Of course, back then in the 80s, they smoked a joint everywhere they went. So us kids were probably a little extra hungry all the time when we were kids. Hey, it is what it is, man. But the rocking, the music, right? You're a youngster, but you have such an appreciation and perspective for the big picture. That's so cool.
Absolutely. When I think about artists back then, or even artists now, a lot of people like to idolize and look at them like, oh, they're so great, which they are, rock stars are awesome. They're cool. But they're also people. They're humans. They have problems. They have everything under the sun exactly like we do. And if we go back and we look at their lives and think like, oh, Michael Jackson back in the day, like even him, like he had a lot of stuff that he had to deal with, and which affected him as an adult. And if you look at people logically like that and you see who they are, then it just gives you a lot more appreciation on the work that they produce out and what they give us and who they are as people.
Oh, Michael, what a great example. You nailed it, man. I mean, who else today? You can even point to, someone like a Taylor Swift that moves like national economies with her tour. She's so gigantic from a money standpoint. But no offense, I don't see people literally passing out and taken out on stretchers one after another because they're hit with the spiritual power of Michael Jackson. Like that was some crazy shit back then, right?
Absolutely. And it's so funny because, like I said, who he was as a person versus like who he was on stage was totally two different people. Mm-hmm. They are both good people, don't get me wrong. But it's like, that just makes you appreciate them more for actually giving us a performance, giving us their lives and showing us like what a party on stage really is.
We all have to have both parts. And I think we spend a lot of time going, which is good. We need to push down the ego a lot that wants us to be number one and wants us to be the best and have recognition and all those selfish things. So we have to be humble in our hearts like that. And the fact is there's stuff that Michael, not the public Michael, but the private Michael or Freddie or any of these gigantic, huge, bigger than life stars, the struggles are things we don't even know about, etc. We don't know what he went through, being abused by his dad or whatever it might be.
Seeing everything that his brothers did and
why?
And, just being affected by those things just as a little boy and, being expected to perform like as soon as he could walk, talk, read, and write. And like that takes a toll out on somebody,
Their psychology is what you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And you have to think about that.
And when you take someone like Michael, he also then, and anyone who needs to be successful also, in addition to, at the same time you keep the ego in check, you also let it go roam free to accomplish something for you that your broken real self can't do, but I can create this ego that can go get on stage and do that. I can create, right? It's, so these stars, they're really two people in a sense, and both are real people. They're just two sides of his coin, kind of, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that we were going to become psychologists. Folks, come on in, lay down on the couch and tell us about your mother. No, I'm just kidding. This is so much fun. How did you get into wanting to actually, you should write a book. Have you written a book or you've thought about it?
What book?
Have you? Oh, you haven't. Okay. You should write a book. You should write a book. I think from a fan's that point of view on Queen, on Freddie, just pulling together all the that's so you should write a book. This is so cool.
Yeah, I have to give a lot of applaud to one of my girlfriends out on the East for kind of going down this rabbit hole with me. We're not really big into Queen like we used to be, but we still love talking about our Queen Fredwina and Father Jim, which was his end of the lifelong partner. Totally two different personalities, but they're like our main queens, and we love them.
Awesome. Well, Sadie, thank you so much for taking us down the time machine today and back in time to a time when music was like, this was all brand new back then. This was all exciting and brand new stuff. And we get to relive it. Like, this is so cool. And the perspective and the history and the research you did and everything. Thanks for being the most awesome Queen fan in the world. And Sadie, thank you so much for coming on Rock Stories with the Brumster podcast here at the Rock Stories with the Brumster YouTube channel. If you do ever get back up a page or anything like that, just let me know, and I'll make sure to let people know about it as well, Sadie.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure talking about these guys and talking about Freddie, especially today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sadie. Have a good day. Hang on the line for our engineers, please. Folks, thank you so much for coming and joining us here at the Rock Stories with the Brumster podcast on the Rock Stories with the Brumster YouTube channel. Every single time that we come on here, it's not about, really even my thoughts. I want to allow you to get into a time machine and re-feel those cool feelings again by having those memories again. Sharing them also helps you have them. So when you're listening to someone else share their memory about, that time I met this star or saw this concert or listened to this album for the first time, and here's how it made me feel. Allow that to get you to travel back and kind of brainstorm and think about, wow, what was my first concert? Think about that. And if you have a good memory you'd like to share, just email me. We'd love to have you on the program. at rockstorieswiththebrumster@gmail.com, rockstorieswiththebrumster@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us on the show today, Sadie. Awesome. Learned all about Queen. Again, Rock Stories with the Brumster YouTube channel for more tales from the fans. Have a great week.